Hello Internet, and welcome to the Collective Arcana. We're a channel all about tabletop gaming, and today we're going to be continuing our series on the Pathfinder Second Edition classes, and this is actually our first one from the new Advanced Player's Guide that just came out a couple of months back. It's the Investigator. The Investigator is a class that's really sort of a skill monkey class, filling that same role that a rogue or even bards might fill in some parties, or even alchemist in Second Edition. Just sort of an everywhere at once type of character with lots of coverage, can be, party face, all that. Going to be doing a lot of, and we'll see, a lot of knowledge checks and things like that as well. So let's just jump right to it with the stats and progression. The Investigator's key ability is Intelligence, which it will get a lot of use out of. It's going to gain 8 HP per level, putting it on par with things like Druid and Bard and Rogue. So definitely not as high as a frontline Marshal, but not as low as a Caster either. Investigators begin with their Perception at Expert, so good out of the gate. That will progress to Master at level 7 and all the way to Legendary at 13. So anytime you get to Legendary in Second Edition, that's very cool. And very fitting for a class that's supposed to be perceptive. For saving throws, the Investigator begins trained in Fortitude, and that will progress to Expert at level 9. They are Expert in Reflex saves, and that will progress to Master at level 15. And they are Expert with Will saves, and that will progress to Master at level 11, and then to Legendary at 17. So 2 Legendary proficiencies. It's very handy. For skills, the Investigator will begin trained in Society, as well as 1 or more skills based on the Methodology, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then you'll also get 4, plus your Intelligence modifier, additional skills. And since Intelligence modifier is their primary skill, or their primary ability score, there's a good chance you're going to have a lot of skill coverage right out of the gate. And a lot of ways to progress it as well, as we'll talk about soon. The Investigator is trained in all simple and martial weapons, which actually puts its weapon options above a rogue, but we'll talk later about an ability that might make you not too interested in a lot of those. But that will go to Expert at level 5 and Master at level 7 or level 13. Along the way, at level 7, you'll get Weapon Specialization, and then Greater Weapon Specialization at level 15, just to make sure you're getting the most out of those attacks, those strikes. For defense, the Investigator is trained in Unarmored and Light Armored Defense, and that will go up to Expert at 13 and Master way up at level 19. And they also have a Class DC, which is something that's used for quite a few of their unique abilities, but it's going to give you, it's going to be begin trained at level 1, it'll progress to Expert at level 9, and then Master at 19. At level 1, you'll make a big decision for your Investigator, and that is, what is your methodology? That is, what is the focus of your investigative life? So there are 4 options that we have presented so far. More will most likely be added in the future, but a pretty good selection already. The first is Alchemical Sciences. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to give you a formula book and a couple of extra known formulas. Those extra known formulas are limited to only elixirs and tools. You're not an alchemist, you're not throwing bombs and creating mutagens. But still, the elixirs and tools are very handy and can really go a long way. You'll also, very similar to the Quick Alchemy that the Alchemist gets, you'll get Quick Tincture, which is pretty much the exact same ability, where you can have a few, what they call versatile vials in the morning that you can use to prepare some alchemical concoctions sort of on the fly. For just a single action in combat, you can create an elixir or an alchemical tool that you know how to do, but it only stays active until the end of that turn. So it's definitely a cool, interesting ability and very thematic to the type of skill-focused type of character you might be. And that's pretty much it. It's definitely influenced heavily from First Edition, where the Investigator got a lot of alchemy there as well. The second of the methodologies is Empiricism, and this is basically just you're very good with numbers and figures and just sort of solving puzzles sort of thing. So you're going to gain the That's Odd Investigator feat, which will force the GM to tell you whenever you enter a new location if you notice something that's suspicious. The GM doesn't have to tell you what's suspicious about it or even what you find suspicious. Or no, it will tell you about an object or place. So the GM will have to tell you, yes, this is suspicious, but it's still up to you to figure out exactly why. You'll also gain Expeditious Inspection, and that is a free action that you can use every 10 minutes to recall knowledge, seek, or sense motive. That's pretty cool. A lot of those activities can take a large amount of time, and at the very least in combat can take a standard action, one of your 3. So being able to do that once in a while completely for free is definitely strong and interesting. In addition to that, you will also become trained in one intelligence-based skill of your choice. And if I didn't say it earlier about the Alchemical Sciences, you're trained in craft alchemy. Or crafting in general. It's very general in 2E. So that's Empiricism. It's very interesting and is maybe sort of the quintessential, the one that, at least in my eyes, is the most investigator-specific one. But there are a couple more. Forensic Medicine is the third idea or methodology that you can choose. You're going to be trained in medicine, of course, and you're going to gain a couple of free feats, Forensic Acumen, which will allow you to sort of do, inspect a body and see what sort of information you can glean from that. You're also going to get Battle Medicine, which is the feat that allows you to, it's a skill feat that allows you to heal your allies in battle using the Treat Wounds action with medicine. Additionally, your Battle Medicine will heal an additional amount of HP equal to your level. And the target will only be immune to Battle Medicine for 1 hour instead of 1 day, to your Battle Medicine specifically. So that's pretty good. That means that the Investigator can pretty much be almost the primary healer in the party. Really, it totally could be. And that's strong just out of the gate. I mean, as somebody who is the barbarian healer in his group, that adding your level to those heals is a big bonus. Interrogation is your 4th methodology. You'll be trained in diplomacy, and you'll gain the No Cause for Alarm skill feat, which will, in addition to allowing you to sort of calm a crowd in combat, it will actually allow you to reduce the fear levels on your allies. It takes 3 actions. It's, kind of a, big investment, but it's a very cool feat. You'll also be able to pursue a lead, which is something we'll talk about shortly. It's a big class feature for the Investigator, but you'll be able to do it as part of a conversation as long as that conversation lasts at least 1 minute. And then you're also going to get an activity or an action called Pointed Question, where you get to target the will DC of a creature, and then that target has to answer a question. You get to pick the question, and they have to answer it. They don't have to answer it truthfully, but if they try to lie, you get a bonus to your perception check to tell that they're lying to you. So it's very, very fun. It's very classic, I guess, every detective does it, but just in my mind, I always picture, Columbo or even Matlock, always that one question at the end that gets them. Matlock, I know, what a reference. So those are the methodologies that are available. Now let's talk about the rest of what you're going to get. You're going to get Devise a Stratagem. It's sort of your go-to in combat. It's going to be a single action activity that allows you to pick a target and immediately roll a d20. And then you get to take that roll and know that, and you're going to use that roll on the next attack you make on that target. That might seem kind of strange, but what you're doing is you get to see, okay, this is the number. Do I want to proceed and attack that target, or do I want to attack a different target. If you roll high, of course it's going to attack that target. If you roll low, you can go attack nothing. It's, you know, it burns an action, but it's a lot better than missing and then your next attack being at a penalty. It allows you to really sort of, you know, survey the field and, you know, like Robert Downey Jr. in those newer Sherlock Holmes movies, you get to sort of, you know, plan in your head how the fight's going to go. And, you know, if you roll low, then you're like, oh no, I don't want to mess with that guy. He's, you know, I'll go to this enemy over here. You'll also, you have the option, if you're wielding an agile or a finesse weapon, on that attack, you can choose to replace the strength or dexterity modifier to the attack roll or you can replace that with your intelligence modifier. That's big. You know, intelligence is your primary ability modifier, so being able to, you know, add that to your attack. Your attacks are not solid, but you're going to be performing a lot better than most characters that have an intelligence modifier as their primary, or a non-strength or dexterity modifier as their primary stat. So it's very cool. It's a real nice equalizer, and it leads into your next ability. That next ability is Strategic Strike. So Strategic Strike allows you to add an extra d6 of damage on a roll that you use your devise a stratagem with, as long as it's, again, an intelligence-based roll. Technically, you don't have to, by the way the rules are written, technically you don't have to use your intelligence modifier to that attack. It just has to be an attack that you could apply your intelligence modifier to. So, you know, I'm not sure what builds would really get use out of that, but I'm sure there are or will be some. But so you get to add that additional d6, and that will progress, much like Sneak Attack, at 5th level, 9th level, 13th, and 17th level, gaining an extra d6 each time. So that means that you've got this Sneak Attack level, I think maybe even above Sneak Attack level, extra damage that you can apply. Yes, it takes an action to set up, but oftentimes Sneak Attack, getting into position, or stealthing will as well. So this is a really strong way that this, you know, just sort of skill monkey looking class can put out a lot of damage, meeting its sort of counterpart in the rogue there. Now let's get to what makes you an investigator, and that's pursue a lead. You can spend 1 minute examining a clue and designate a subject related to that clue. So if you find a footprint or a weapon or a blood stain, you can designate the target. So whatever made the footprint, whoever used the knife, whoever spilled the blood, sort of thing. You can choose a target to be the subject of your pursue a lead. Your skill checks and perception checks to investigate that subject are going to gain a +1, and that's actually going to progress to +2 when you get to expert in your class DC at level 9. And you can maintain up to 2 different investigations at a time. So, you know, that's pretty good. And there are feats that will allow you to have much more investigations than that. But, you know, that way you can, you know, have a couple of leads, you know, just sort of ideas, which is really fun in an intrigue type game where you can, you know, have a lot going on. You're also going to get the ability Clue In, and you'll get this at 2nd level. Or no, you'll get this at 1st level, sorry. Where you can share your Pursue a Lead bonus to perception and some skill checks with an ally. So it's a reaction that you can use, so you can use it in combat or as part of, you know, a sort of combat-styled social encounter as well, or just anytime when you're not actually in encounter mode. So that's really nice. You know, sort of, you know, allows you to team up, and of course, the more people that are doing something, the better chance of success. At level 2, you're going to get, this is really where we start seeing it, you're keeping up with the rogue, you're going to get skill increases beginning at 2nd level and being every single level. So we haven't really talked about the basic progression that all characters and classes get, but every class will get skill feats or skill increases at every even level. The investigator, like the rogue, will actually get them at every single level. So that is really huge. You're getting twice as many skills to legendary and to master as in most other classes. To go with that, you're going to get skillful lessons. So every odd level, every class already gets a skill feat. And of course, the higher your skill proficiency, the more skill feats you get, or the more skill feats you would be qualified for. But the Investigator, again, like the Rogue, beginning at 3rd level, you get to pick an additional skill feat every single level instead of every other level, like most other classes. The Investigator is a little bit limited. These skill feats have to be for intelligence, wisdom, or charisma-based skills, or a skill related to your methodology, which right now I believe that all of them are intelligence, wisdom, or charisma-based, but they're leaving room for potential other methodologies in the future that might be dexterity or strength-based or something. Or con-based, what would that even look like? So that means that in addition to those huge starting number of skills and the couple of skill feats you're getting from most of those methodologies, out of the gate, by the time you get to level 3, you're already, or 4, you're already going to start feeling leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the party in terms of your skills, which is good because that's what this class does. At level 3, you're also going to get Keen Recollection. So it's going to change your proficiency bonus for untrained recall knowledge checks to equal your level instead of equaling 0. So that's huge. It's a very bardic knowledge, bardic lore type of an ability. It is a little weird because theoretically you're going to have a lot of skills. So, maybe not a huge boost, but definitely nothing to be sad about, especially on this type of character. At level 11, that's when you get your next ability, and that's going to be Deductive Improvisation. And that's going to allow you to attempt any check that would require you to be trained, even if you're untrained. Attempt any skill check that would require you to be expert, as long as you're at least trained. And attempt any master check, as long as you are an expert. So a lot of skills will, as you increase your proficiency, will unlock new actions you can take with them. So this allows you to really open those up without spending those skill points or spending those skill increases. Again, you're a class that's going to have a lot of those anyway, but this is just a nice little boost for the ones that you just don't dedicate yourself to. At level 19, we're really going to go off the rails almost with Master Detective. So anytime, there's a lot to this ability. I'm just going to say the way it works is anytime you enter a room, GM will tell you that there is a clue in the room, and what type of clue. Whether it's an object, a person, a spell effect, etc. Additionally, whenever you find a clue, the GM will tell you specifically, yes, that's a clue. So rather than finding a bunch of weird things and wondering which of them are relevant, you always know if there's something relevant in the room. Now, if there's more than one thing, the GM only has to tell you about one. But every time you find something, if it's an actual clue, if the GM has deemed it relevant to your investigation, they will let you know. And that's really wild. It's about as good as it gets when the GM is telling you. And, as we get into some of the feats, we're going to see that there's a lot of this in this class, which is super fun. So that's it for the basics of your progression. Everything that is, sort of not optional. And now we're going to start talking about feats and builds. So as with all these videos, I don't really want to go in depth and, give you a few different types of full builds, level by level. I'm not even really going to tell you about a lot of specific feats. I'm going to touch on them and what they do. This is just to give you an idea of the types of characters that you can build with this class, and the types of, at least the feats and abilities that really struck me as being sort of, the quintessential or most impressive to the class. The Investigator gets a lot of stuff, guys. So you're going to get an ability to allow all your allies to benefit from Pursue a Lead, an ability to clue them all in as a reaction all at once, and then you're also going to be able to recall knowledge as part of a strike. There's a feat that will let you sort of analyze an enemy and then bypass their resistances because you found the weakness. There's going to be trap finding, which is, classic rogue stuff. There's also going to be non-lethal combat options, so that you can, take somebody alive so that you can interrogate them or things like that. You're also going to be able to devise a stratagem with your athletics and athletics checks to disarm, trip, shove, grapple, that sort of thing, which is really strong. You're probably not going to have a high strength, so being able to apply your intelligence to those skills, that athletics skill, is really going to be probably your only real way to succeed at those sometimes. And then the fact that you get to know what the role is ahead of time as well can really make you seem like you're next level. There's going to be options to use your pursue a lead bonus on saves against a lead. So if somebody is designated as part of your investigation or one of your investigations, and they try to cast a spell on you or something, you saw that coming. You saw through it. There's also going to be options to apply your strategic strike even without the setup with devise a stratagem. That might be sort of a no-brainer one, especially if you're doing a significant amount of combat with your character. Being able to drop that action is really huge. There's also going to be the option to make 5 recall knowledge checks for 1 action. That means if there's a room full of different monsters, you might be able to learn a weakness or something about them all at once. It's very much like that Sherlock Holmes from the BBC Sherlock, where you just sort of thinks for a minute and then just everything zooms in and enter your mind palace sort of thing. That's really fun. You're going to be able to reconstruct a scene. And there's a lot of cinematic references in this because it's fun, and a lot of these are very clearly call-outs to these abilities that you've seen in TV shows and things like that. This ability to reconstruct a scene allows you to basically the GM will just sort of describe what happened vaguely, but you're going to very much feel like Willem Dafoe in Boondock Saints, where it was a firefight. It's going to be great. It's just so fun. And then you're also going to get the ability to just pull out random items, which is a skill feat out in the APG, but you basically sort of get 2 of them at a time. And just that ability to, be like, yeah, you know what, guys? Folks, I knew we were going to need a grappling hook, so I got a grappling hook. Don't worry about it. So that's really fun. Again, you're feeling like you're steps ahead of everybody all the time. Up to and including, you're going to be able to jury rig magical items or stolen magical essences, how it's described, and actually be able to set up a spell. You're not a spellcaster. Who knows how you're doing this? You're going to be able to set up a spell to just go off when certain conditions are met. The more complicated the conditions, the more likely they are to fail. But, that's wild. It's just very much in theme with what the Investigator does, which is over the top, fourth wall breaking type things. One of my favorites is a nice Columbo reference feat called One More Thing, and that allows you to actually retry on a failed attempt to intimidate or diplomacy, try to get information from somebody. You can just say, let me try again. And that's the class. It's all very much references to, assuming you like detective things, you're going to get a lot of just little in-jokes that feel, great to see. And the whole class, like I said, is very fourth wall breaking. So your builds are going to have a lot of potential to really go out there and focus in on, being the type of TV detective that you want to be. So you should have plenty of room to have lots of fun with it. So, what do I think? Well, I imagine it's pretty obvious. I think it is fun. The Investigator is one that, if you watch our APG playtest video, I really wasn't sure about it. I kind of felt like, isn't this stuff that a rogue could do? And to be fair, it still sort of is, but I think that the flavor that the Investigator is bringing in Even though the Mastermind Rogue, which is a rogue racket that came in the APG, adds some of these feats, there's just so much unique to the Investigator. I didn't really talk about the feats and builds, but there are several feats where you're basically using divination magic, except, you just sit down, you take a few minutes, and you just ruminate on all the clues you have, and then the GM has to tell you if you're right about something, or, tell you if, these leads don't matter, or tell you if these leads connect into one super case. It's just very, very fun and enjoyable. Just, again, the way it breaks the fourth wall of the game. This is not going to be for every table, but the good news is that even if you're not playing a high intrigue game, it's going to perform very well even outside of that. Of course, it's going to do its best in a high intrigue game, solving mysteries, things like that. But it has enough versatility and enough surprisingly strong combat options that it can be at home in any type of campaign. I just want to stress, if you've got a GM that is going to work with you and allow those types of stories to be told, I don't think you could have more fun than an Investigator in an investigation-heavy game. Of course, could you have more fun than a fighter in a, gladiator-type campaign? I guess not. But, so every campaign is going to be different, but a lot of potential there. The 4 current methodologies are going to allow for some pretty classic detective tropes, that I've already talked about. Everything from Sherlock Holmes to Gregory House to Columbo to Batman, Psych and Veronica Mars. If you've seen a detective on TV, there's sort of a nod somewhere in this class to that one. With this class, you're able to stay one step ahead of anything and everyone, including having a plan to kill everyone you know. And, you're going to get skill feats and increases and wide recall knowledge options, and you get to ham it up in interrogation scenes and things like that. So just a lot of fun, a lot of utility, a lot of usefulness, and just a lot of extra flavor that comes with it. I think that it can work as a solid healer, it can work as a huckster, a spy, and it just flat out does things that no other class can. Again, breaking those fourth walls, doing those divination type effects. And it does it with, again, flavor. So I'm definitely positive on the Investigator. And if you like characters who tend to be the smartest person in the room, who look good in a deerstalker hat or a trench coat or a domino mask, this is very likely a class that you should look into. It's going to, give you just, again, options you don't have anywhere else. And the hidden sword cane blade is really nice as well. So as you can see, I'm pretty positive on the Investigator, which, the more I do these videos, the more I realize I'm pretty positive on all of these classes so far. Even the Alchemist, which was probably the weakest, I still really like and like the flavor of. So that's what I think. What do you think? Go ahead down in the comments. Let us know, if you're playing an Investigator, what type of fourth wall breaking hijinks have you gotten up to? How are you making your GM's life a nightmare with your fantastic abilities? As always, like, subscribe if you enjoy this content, and thanks so much for spending time with us. Welcome to the collective, and we'll see you next time.